welcome back to another episode of Talkin' Baseball, the show in which we talk about baseball. Again, this is episode 6 of season 2, and we're filming this the day of the last day of the season. Last day of the 2016 season, with something still to be decided, but for local fans, it's been a hell of a year.
Yep. Cold, dingy day, but there's still baseball to be played after today for the postseason, so that makes it just a little bit warmer outside.
And the Sox have clinched another the first year.
Twice in the last 5 years they did it.
So we'll see. But what we thought we'd do with this last show is discuss postseason awards, because what they do is they vote for the most valuable player, most valuable manager, pitcher, rookie of the year prior to the postseason. So the teams that are in the postseason, their players can't influence the outcome of most valuable whatever, right, because not everybody makes that.
Yeah, and you can't use the World Series to vote for the most valuable player. That's not how it works. It's not designed that way.
Just for those of you who are seeing this show for the first time, I'm Pete Lincoln. This is my cohort,
Jason Smith. Hello.
And we're back again. Hope everybody enjoys watching Talkin' Baseball.
And it's a great way to, well, I don't know, maybe we might sneak another show in before the end of the year.
Sure.
But it's a great way to end the 2016 season. It's been a great success for the Red Sox, worst to first, and most pundits probably had them picked in the middle of the division, maybe a shot at a wild card, and they clinched the division with a week to go, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it.
And 3 youngsters that are still learning the game turned out to have fabulous seasons, which bodes well for the future.
It does, and some of the free agent signings worked out well. A couple not so well, but for the most part, they've been really solid. The lineup's been terrific. The big trouble spot's been the bullpen in the last month or so. That's really cleared up, except for Kimbrel, who's been shaky. But the rest of the crew, getting Koji back was a huge boost. Sure. That really helped put the bullpen in place. And the starters have been very solid too. So they should be good. They should be good to go.
So anyway, for those of you who saw our show last year on voting for the Hall of Fame, just a quick refresher. Who can vote for these postseason awards? And again, it's just the baseball writers. No broadcasters, no pundits, no writers like Verducci, just people who follow the team and they get to vote. Now, there's a system for the way they vote. Every person voting for the manager picks 3. They have to pick 3, and they have to put them first, second, and third, and points are developed from those scores. Mm-hmm. And with pitchers, they vote for 5, most valuable pitcher, rookie for 3, and for most valuable player, it's 10.
And you have to fill out all 10. It's not like the Hall of Fame we talked about where, in theory, you could mail in a blank ballot or just put one person. You have to fill out your entire ballot of 10 players.
And they have to be ranked 1st through 10. And the scoring goes 14 points for first place, then 9 for second, 8 for third, and so forth.
And then all the way down to 1 point.
So to be picked as number 1 is critical. Mm-hmm. But you can get no number 1s theoretically and still win. Yeah. There have been several unanimous MVPs.
Yeah.
And a few unanimous Cy Youngs too. But I think this year it will be much more, a lot of discussion this year, a lot of excellent candidates, and no really clear-cut winner the way they have been a few times.
Well, especially, we're just going to focus on the American League, which is, I think the National League is a little more clear-cut in a couple cases, but in the American League, there are certainly arguments to be made in every category between several people, not just a couple.
And we're making the presumption that most of our viewers are much more interested in the American League than the National League anyway.
As are we.
One of the things that amazes me most is the batting champ in the National League is a fellow from Colorado. I'm honest, it's sad to say, I never heard of him.
Oh, Arenado. Yes, Nolan Arenado.
Yes. I thought he was somebody in the Boston Marathon bombing. I don't remember who he is. So we're just going to admit our ignorance about National League ins and outs is we don't get to watch them so much, and we would assume most of the people out there will be more interested in our thoughts.
Sure.
And the thing about voting for anything that is subjective is that it's subjective.
Yes.
And it might be your bias against players or against teams, things you see more than somebody else, the games you happen to focus in on. Like, for instance, Jackie Bradley had a 29-game hitting streak, so he made the All-Star team, but at the end of the year, he's not an All-Star.
You're going to look at his stats and say, why did he make the team?
How did he make a starting All-Star berth? But because at the time, he was very newsworthy.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, at the end of the season like this, you've got a pretty good chance to check all the stats for all the year and see how those respective teams did.
Yep. And as we always say, baseball is a business.
That's right.
So it's about the teams and the players that are in the news at the time that have the best chance of doing well with the writers, because they do want to promote the game when all's said and done.
And so along with that, stars in baseball are like stars in movies.
Yes.
People want to see the stars.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember going to see the Red Sox play in San Francisco, and because the DH wasn't able to play in San Francisco, the San Francisco fans were shouting, "We want Poppy!
Yeah.
We want Poppy!" They want to see the stars.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a chance to evaluate the stars and see how they influence. But all of these players we're talking about are stars. All
Yes, they are, as well they should be. And everyone we're talking about, too, we're not picking obscure people. This is the cream of the crop. And these are the absolute best players in baseball we're discussing. And that's why you can have a valid argument for a lot of these people.
Because especially, we have to pick 1 through 10 for the MVP.
How do you rank number 7 over number 8? I mean,
right.
it's really difficult.
And I'll bet if we got 10 people other than just 2 here, we all have quite different ballots.
Absolutely.
Depending on how you feel. And it's difficult, too, as Red Sox fans, how do we evaluate Red Sox?
How do we be objective?
And be objective. Either we say, hell, we're not going to be.
Right, you're right.
That's the best. Or maybe lean over backwards the opposite way.
Well, and also, like you're saying, it comes down to which team do you follow? We see the AL East 18 times a piece during the year,
right.
Whereas a team like, say like the Mariners, we get 2 series a year, and one of them's out on the West Coast, so you don't get to really
nobody watches.
You don't really get to watch the whole team. So a lot of it comes down to what team do you follow, where's your market, and again, subjective,
right.
And that's an intangible that
now the writers, of course, are from all over the country.
Yeah.
So they have to try to also be objective all the way, but they're not.
No.
And there's been, we covered this last year, but in voting, like the MVP voting in 1941, where people completely left Ted Williams off the ballot altogether.
Because they didn't like him.
And 2 left Joe DiMaggio off the ballot.
Yeah.
And voted for Eddie Joost instead of
Right.
Jewell.
Yeah.
We go to our back pages, you
Yeah.
check that one out.
Well, or back in the, we can get into it with the MVP, but or the Cy Young, the writer left Pedro off the Cy Young ballot because he didn't like Pedro, and he had one of the best seasons in the history of the game. It was absurd to not have him on the ballot, but he didn't like Pedro, so he left him off the Cy Young ballot. It's ridiculous, but it does happen. They're human beings, and for whatever reason, human beings have grudges or biases or whatever, and that does come into play.
Right.
So, and for better or worse, that's part of the game.
All you have to do is be a registered beat writer or someone that used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like our buddy Gordon Eads is no longer a beat writer, but he does still get a vote because the beat writers maintain that for at least 10 years as long as they maintain their due diligence.
Right. Yeah, the due diligence clause. Yeah, we talked about that before. So we'll get into exactly what the criteria are for these awards, because there are certain rules you're supposed to, in theory, follow for these awards. Not that it happens, but they do give you parameters, at least, that come from Major League Baseball.
And these actually, the first MVP awards were given in 1931, and they still maintain the same rules. Mm-hmm. And if you see when Jake reads them here, somewhat might be reworded a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit archaic.
These are 90, almost 90 years old now. Yeah. Somehow the things they valued then seem a little difficult. But, well, we'll see.
Well, and 90 years ago, you learned about your team from either going to the game or reading the newspaper.
That's right.
Now, with multimedia, you can sit and analyze something. If you wanted to get into, I'm just pulling a name, Josh Donaldson's season, you could literally go and watch every one of his at-bats.
Right.
And analyze it to death and see where he falls on the list. I'm just making an example there, but that wasn't available 90 years ago.
And there are 24-hour-a-day talk shows to do just that.
Yes, they do. 93.7 here in Boston and 98.5 is endless sports talk if you're into that kind of thing. But,
okay, why don't you go ahead and read those rules?
So this is in terms of the MVP, and these are the parameters that are given by Major League Baseball. It says, "Dear voter," first of all, because this goes to the voter, there is no clear-cut definition of what most valuable means. Well, so we're already subjective here.
See, and the big argument always there is it the best player,
Right.
statistically, or most valuable player?
Right.
And that's a distinction.
It sure is.
Someone on a terrible team, somebody, wasn't it the lefty, Steve Carlton, I think,
Yes.
won 28 games as a pitcher for the Phillies, who only won 53
Yeah,
games.
he won
that
half of his games that
half
year.
the games. So he's certainly the best statistically pitched, but without him, they would have only won 33 games
Right.
and still come in last.
Yeah, and actually that's going to happen this year, as we're going to get into. There's some controversy about that this year.
So anyway,
Yeah.
we'll just assume
yeah.
that that's a.
Yeah. It is up to the individual voter to decide who was the most valuable player in each league to his team. The MVP, again subjective, need not come from a division winner or other playoff qualifier. So every team is eligible. So the rules of voting remain the same as they were written in 1931. Actual value of player to his team, that is strength of offense and defense. Number of games played, makes sense. General character, disposition, loyalty, and effort.
Here we go again.
Here we go again. The integrity of the game. Number 4, former winners are eligible, which has happened many times that people have won multiple awards. And members of the committee may vote for more than one member of a team.
Right.
So it's not one per team. You can have multiple people on there from
Especially
any team.
this year, I think that's a crucial point.
Yes, it is. Yep. We'll get into that.
Um,
You are also urged to give serious consideration to all your selections from 1 to 10. A 10th place vote can influence the outcome of an election. You must fill out all 10 places. And this is key too. Keep in mind that all players are eligible for MVP, including pitchers and designated hitters.
Now, not every single writer buys into that.
Yes.
Some writers will say, I will not vote for pitchers.
In 1999, Pedro was completely left off 2 MVP ballots, one by a local writer, in fact, because they didn't think pitchers should be in the MVP conversation.
They have their own voting, their own Cy Young, and number of games played. The most any pitcher is going to pitch is, well, let's say a relief pitcher can pitch is maybe 60.
60 or
Starting
70.
pitcher 35.
Sure.
So he only pitches 1/6 of his team games. How can he be the most valuable player?
Yeah.
But there's been a couple of times pitchers have won the MVP.
Yep, Eck won it as a reliever
That's right.
in 1990, I think it was. Again, that buys in. That's subjective.
That's right.
Even though there are rules in place, within the rules, there's a lot of interpretation that you can use to influence your votes. And we decided that for the purposes of this, when we get to the MVP, we left pitchers off the MVP ballot,
Right.
just to make it, for the sake of discussion, make it easier for us.
Right.
So.
I think that we'll first just run through our picks. We're just going to talk mainly about most valuable player because that's a lengthy discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But just for the fun of it, we picked our top 3 managers. Who would you say? Who would be your picks this year?
So the list starts with. No, and in each of these categories, I gave an honorable mention too, because of course, limiting a list to 3 or 5, somebody is going to get left off at some point who deserves it. My honorable mention for Manager of the Year was Girardi for the Yankees, and I hate to admit it, he did a terrific job with that team. They gutted the 2 best relievers and Carlos Beltran from the team, and they did better after they left the team. And you look at that lineup, the stars of the Yankees years past are gone. It's a bunch of, who are these guys? And he had them in the playoff contention until the last week. So he's my honorable mention, but my number 3 pick was Jeff Bannister from the Rangers. The Rangers had the best record in the league all year. They were totally consistent the entire year. Were never too hot, never too cold. He did it with a couple big stars, but a lot of lesser-known guys. And he did it with a bullpen that was kind of a mess for most of the year, and a couple good starters that he kind of rode the entire year. And you look at that Rangers team and you say, how is that the best team in the league? And I think he did a terrific job. So he's my number 3.
Who's your number 2? Let's do them.
And my number 2, sad to say for Red Sox fans, my number 2 is Tito Francona. I think he did it. The Indians won that division, actually as it ended up by quite a bit. He dodged a lot of injuries. They had these great starters, and almost every single one of them were down for a good portion of the year, if not almost the entire year. Not a lot of superstars on that team. The lineup is just a bunch of scrappy guys. There's no real big offensive threat in that lineup, and they won that division going away. So he's my number 2 pick. And my number 1, I hate the guy, and I hate when the Red Sox play this team. I picked Buck Showalter. You look at that Orioles team, how in the world is this a wild card team? They have no starting pitching whatsoever. Tillman's their ace, and even his numbers weren't that great this year. He has a terrific bullpen. I'll give him that. The bullpen's really, really good. And they have a couple big thumpers in that lineup, but again, when you have they have the 3rd worst starters ERA in the league, and they're going to end up making the playoffs. That's pretty astounding when you think about it. And I hate when the Red Sox play the Orioles because it's always a 4-hour game, and the Orioles just have this knack of playing well at Fenway. They're the team I dread if the Sox face them in the playoffs. They are my number 1 killer team I do not want to face. I just think, you look at that Orioles team and you say, how did this team win 93 games or whatever they're going to end up winning? So he's my pick.
Okay. Well, I'll agree on a couple of them. I picked Bannister as the manager of the year.
Did you really? Good.
I think that team was not a preseason pick to do especially well. You never hear about him. That's good.
Yeah.
You never hear any controversy on that team. In years past, there's been a lot of turmoil down there, and he's solidified, gotten good use from a lot of people. And he also had to piece together a pitching staff. I just like the way he handled that staff. We watched a lot of Texas games just because there was a time. I'll pick Francona second, again, because he dealt with adversity, and he had that team pretty much ahead the whole way.
They did. They were the whole time.
The whole way through it. I went down through their lineup trying to find an MVP. I couldn't find any.
Yeah, Lindor's probably their biggest MVP candidate.
I think maybe he was up there, but he didn't have as good a year as usual.
Yeah.
They didn't have any outstanding pitcher except for Kluber. So I liked him, and I'm picking Girardi third. I can't believe the Yankees were in contention up to 2 weeks ago.
Amazing.
They had nothing. And they gave away Beltran, and then they gave away 2 of their 3 ace relievers.
Miller and Chapman.
There was no point to keeping them because they never could get that far. He did burn out his final one. Betances got burned out at the end. He had no choice with that.
Right. He Scott Proctored him, as we refer to it as.
He just was able to get wins on a ragtag bunch of guys. The 2 leadoff men, and Gardner and Ellsbury, had lousy seasons.
And actually, Sabathia had a very good year. For him, he had a good year, hit a rebound. So
but he was 9-12.
There he was.
So I think he did a great job. Better than. It's tougher to win when you don't have people than it is when you do. Casey Stengel always used to say, because he was always the Hall of Fame manager, Mr. Ford, will you pitch me a shutout? Mr. Mandel, hit a couple home runs. Thank you very much. I'm a genius.
Right. Sure.
Then he went to run the Mets after that all of a sudden.
Oh, wait.
So having the players and winning with that, I think that's cost. Sometimes it's cost a lot of great teams managers of the year just because why not?
Sure.
We sit at home and say, we can manage much better than the current Red Sox manager. But they did win.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Well, how many times did and that happened when the Yankees were on their great run of about a decade ago. Every year, people would make the argument against Joe Torre because they said, "You have a great team."
That's right.
I could manage that team and win. So
we'll see how that turns out. Now, we also picked the top 5 pitchers, and I think just to save time, we'll sort of pretty much just run down through.
Sure.
So take it 5 through.
Sure. So, again, honorable mentions that I think should at least be in the conversation. Just under the top 5, I had Tanaka from the Yankees, I had Sale from the White Sox, and Andrew Miller from the Yankees and the Indians. Very overlooked, terrific year that he had. My number 5 pick was Justin Verlander. Great rebound year. People had written him off as past his prime. I don't know if getting married to Kate Upton helped in that whole thing. I don't know if that was a motivator for him or what. But he had a terrific rebound year. He was just as dominant as he always had been during his past Cy Young campaigns. My number 4 pick, and again, this ties into the whole idea of the competition you face. My number 4 pick was J.A. Happ from the Blue Jays. He just won his 20th game yesterday. He went 20-4, and this is going to tie into a couple of my higher picks. Pitching in the AL East is always tougher than anywhere else. If you look at the metrics, the NL Central and the AL East were by far the 2 best divisions in baseball.
Right.
Their runs scored, they were the only 2 divisions that had more runs scored than runs given up. They were the only two in baseball. So just pitching in that division and putting up those kind of numbers.
4 of the 5 teams were in contention, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
And
Yep.
it looks like 3 of them are going to make the playoffs in
Right.
that division.
So pitching in that division and putting up those numbers goes a long way. My number 3 pick, and unfortunately he was hurt, and so I couldn't put him higher. Corey Kluber was my 3rd pick from the Indians. Terrific year, and he actually won the Cy Young 2 years ago. And last year people were on him because he had a, quote, down year. He lost 16 games. Look at the 3 seasons in a row. Totally consistent.
Yeah.
Last year he had horrible luck on a lot of things. The team was down from where they were before. He's year in, year out, he's turned into be a great candidate. He's 1st or 2nd in strikeouts. Another terrific year from him. And he really carried that staff when Carrasco and Salazar went down for the year. Terrific season. My number 2 pick, hometown pick, my number 2 pick is Rick Porcello. He had a phenomenal year. 21 wins he ended up with. Again, pitching 22. That's right, 22. Again, pitching in the AL East. He had 4 losses, and one of them was 1-0. One of them was 2-1.
Right.
He was the only starter in the American League who didn't have what they call a, quote, disaster start, where he never went less than 5 innings. Never gave up more than 5 runs in a start. That's pretty astounding when you think about it, that to be that consistent all year and not have one start where you blew up and put your team out of the game, that's really amazing. And he had a stretch where he was going 7 innings or more. I think he had 8 starts in a row where he went 7 or 8 innings. And it wasn't blow you away numbers, it was just dead consistency. Every start was 7 innings, 2 runs, 8 innings, 2 runs. You know, I know he's in the top 10 in strikeouts, but he doesn't have blow-you-away stuff. A lot of weak grounders, but he had a terrific year, and I think the Sox are happy they gave him that big contract that they gave him a couple of years ago. And my number 1 pick, and I am always very wary of picking relievers because of the small sample size, but this year, Zach Britton had an absolutely historic year for the Orioles. He perfect 47 for 47. His ERA is 0.53 or something ridiculous like that. He is the guy. It's sort of like Rivera back in the day. The door opens and you say, "This game's over." He is so dominant when he comes in, and again, picking up the slack for a team that had just no starting pitching. A lot of times he went an inning or over an inning, even 2 innings sometimes. And his strikeout numbers, I think it was like 12 or 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. Just a phenomenal year. And that's a year where, similar to the year like Eric Gagne had a few years ago, sometimes there's a reliever that just puts up such a historic season that you can't deny him the Cy Young.
And
So
we've already decided we're not going to include pitchers in the MVP.
Yes.
Where would Baltimore have been without him?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
You figure how many times, just pick the Red Sox, games they lost in relief. If they had Britton on this team, they would have won by 10 games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he made a huge difference. So I totally agree. And I can't argue with much of this. I had Britton top. I had Porcello second. What I think most remarkable about him is he was 13-1 at Fenway, and his one loss was 1-0.
Yeah, right.
It's tough to pitch in Fenway
It is.
Park.
Sure.
It's not a place anybody likes to pitch, and his home pitching was inspirational.
Yeah.
And his demeanor was great. He didn't miss a start, and he was top in almost all the categories straight across. And I think he had the 2nd most innings pitched next to Price.
He did, yeah, and especially in a year where Price was very shaky at times. He was the rock of the Red Sox staff. He really was.
Happ I put 3rd because Happ, again, I know a lot of people discount wins. I don't. Winning the game is what counts.
Right, yeah, right.
You get a lot of breaks, good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a lot of Pedro and Clemens were both on pretty good hitting teams.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, right.
86 Sox hit pretty well for Clemens.
Yeah. Right.
I put Tanaka 4th. Tanaka had an excellent year playing for it, and he got gypped out of many wins because the bullpen blew it for him after a while.
Yeah.
He was tough. I hated. Of all the pitchers against us, he was the one I hated the most.
He was the one Yankee you dreaded.
He ended up 14-4, but he could have easily been up there too. And I put Kluber last just because he's another tough one, and he was also on a winning team.
He was, and I think missing the last 3 weeks of the season hurts him a little bit. Yeah. He was on the DL to end the year.
I think he's supposed to pitch today.
Is he?
I
think
so.
He's supposed to be ready for the playoffs, according to Terry Francona. We'll see if that's going to happen.
So anyway, we both agree on the Cy Young Award going to Zach Britton, as a reliever.
Just a historic year. Sort of like the year Koji had a couple of years ago with the
And I'm sure some of the voters will say, well, the relief pitcher really shouldn't get that opportunity, but he only pitches 60 innings, which is just a tiny fraction.
Yeah, but they're pretty important innings.
Important innings, as all Sox fans know.
Yeah.
There have been times when you say, we had a 3-0 lead in the ninth, and suddenly...
Oh, whoops. So that's good. Well, we've been pretty much in agreement so far.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
But here's where it gets really tough.
Okay.
And because, again, the MVP is so up to interpretation, and there were 10 names rather than 3 or 5.
Yeah.
So you can go in a whole lot of different directions with it, with your 10 votes.
So we'll each explain how we went about making our decisions.
Mm-hmm.
What I did is I went through every single team, checked to see their team leaders, and picked out of those team leaders which ones I thought were overall most valuable players. Now, some teams had none.
Mm-hmm.
It was easy.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
We were talking about Cleveland.
Really,
Yeah.
nobody that really stood out. It was more of a team effort, which is okay.
Yeah.
But someone that you could say really was the most valuable player, and without him on the team would have had much tougher luck. Went down and through. I picked out, I think, eventually 16 or 17 that I agreed with all.
As did I.
Then took those and say, well, I didn't pick anyone from a non-contending team.
Mm-hmm.
I decided, well, except for one exception.
I had 2 exceptions.
One exception.
Yeah.
But, if some team comes in 5th and a guy has a great year, without him, they would have come in 5th.
Mm-hmm.
So it really, how valuable can he be to someone that's not going anywhere?
Yeah.
But still, statistics is statistics, and with all the cybermetrics and all the stuff we have now, people tend to rate statistics and put them through the shredder and get all these different things that they can.
Well, and even within that, the big stat that people use right now is WAR, wins above replacement.
Right.
There are different methods of calculating WAR. There's BWAR, there's FWAR. So depending on what metric, even within that, you're going to get different results depending on what you believe is the best metric for that. And another thing, remember we talked about, it's offense and defense.
Yeah.
And to this day, I think probably UZR comes the closest to judging fielding, but there's no real analytic way to judge fielding.
That's right.
And so that is just completely up to the voters. And again, if we're picking a Mariner, how often do we get to see a Mariner play defense?
Fielding average is determined by how many errors you make, but a lot of errors are made because someone is able to make more of an effort to get to something and tries to make a desperate throw and throws it away where someone else would just wave it by. You know? So fielding average isn't always indicative of how good a fielder he is. You can tell how many a good first baseman may just make a lot of nice catches like Bo Vaughn, but someone can scoop the ball, prevent errors, is much more valuable as a fielder. And there are awards for this, though, the Golden Glove Awards for each position, just like the Slugger Awards are for everybody.
Yep.
So I myself discarded those other people and ranked, then to rank the next is what's hard.
Yes, ranking the 1 through 10 is ridiculous.
Someone said to me yesterday, it's easy to pick out 10. Ranking them
is the hard part.
Just like the Academy Award nominations.
Right. That's right.
Here's 5 terrific performances. Which one was best? Well,
I don't know.
How do you know?
Right.
How do you determine that? So this is subjective. So what we'll do this time is just take them 10 each, 9 each, and say something about them without maybe going overboard on each person, but why we felt that they belonged on the list and where they belong on the list. So go ahead and lead on.
Sure. And again, I have some honorable mentions here that, because you said you narrowed it down to 16. I had quite a few that again, a default, because he's good year in, year out. Miguel Cabrera, he's always going to be in the discussion for it. Ian Kinsler had a terrific year. I don't think a lot of people realize just how good he was. Edwin Encarnacion from the Blue Jays had a phenomenal year, especially in a year where Batista had a really off season. And I hated to leave him out of the top 10. I had Dustin Pedroia just out of the top 10. Just out. We'll find out later when the whole rule about picking people from different teams, and you can pick people from the same team, it's very hard to pick a lot of people from one team, and I found that out when I was ranking this.
Okay.
So, but my number 10 is, and like you said, there were 2 people I picked from losing teams because I thought their years were so good that they at least should get a mention. My number 10 was Dozier from the Twins, Brian Dozier. The Twins are horrible, the worst team in baseball. He was the one guy on that team that you absolutely dreaded when he came up. And he put these numbers up as a second baseman, and teams just pitched around him. And the fact that he put up the numbers that he did when people were just walking him half the time, it was a remarkable year
Yeah,
on a horrible team.
42 homers?
42 homers this year as a second baseman, which is really astounding. I think he's only the second baseman ever to hit 40 homers. And think about in that horrible, the Twins I think are lost 103 games so far this year. In a horrible lineup, just bad in every way. So think about putting up 42 homers as a second baseman when teams are pitching around you. That's pretty amazing. So I gave him my number 10 pick, even though the Twins were just awful.
Okay, well, I had half a dozen I left off the list. I won't go into detail. Dozier was one of the ones I left off.
Was he really? Yes, yeah.
I left off Kipnis, Trumbo, Pujols, Cruz, and Encarnacion. And most of them primarily because they're slow.
Yeah. I missed him. I did have Trumbo on my honorable mention list too. I forgot to mention him.
I did have him 10th, and then I looked at his overall stats, and even though he had a phenomenal number of home runs, he only hit about 250, and I just didn't feel 256, and he's...
and I think he's not very good in the field, and I think in Baltimore there's sort of a stacked lineup there too, and I think he really benefited from that. I agree with you leaving him out of the top 10.
I had a hard time doing that. We should say that usually add a tribute at this point.
Oh yes,
before we get any further.
Sure.
And here's something that neither of us knew ourselves until this morning.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain what our trivia is going to be?
So our trivia question today is that everybody knows that the Best Pitcher Award is named after Cy Young. It's called the Cy Young Award. Actually, the MVP Award is named after someone. And if you know this, you're better than us because we had no idea. But who is the MVP Award named after?
Kennesaw Mountain Landis, the first commissioner of baseball. And sure enough, if you look at the plaque, it says the Kennesaw Mountain Landis Award, most valuable player in the league. They sure don't play that up enough.
No, well, he's not exactly a popular figure in baseball. Yeah, that might be part of it.
He was the one that saved baseball and then prevented it from becoming integrated.
Well, I think, was he still commissioner when they gave out the first MVP? Is that why it's named after?
He was 31.
Yeah, so that's why it's
31 was the first year. He was the commissioner until the 40s.
Right, yeah, so he was still in charge.
After he passed away, I don't think it originally was named after him, but they is now. So we just gave the answer, by the way.
Yes, we did. That's okay. Don't worry. That's all right. You didn't have time to think about it, but that's okay. It's a discussion.
Right. Well, so if you get that right, you're pretty good.
This is live TV.
You're paying attention to the show.
And if you do it that quick, you're really good. So, all right. So we're.
That's pretty funny.
So we pretty much agreed on just the bubbling under 10, as we should call it, right?
All right. Here's my number 10. Is Cabrera from the Tigers. You could put him in the most valuable player discussion every year. He and my number 8 pick have become sort of like the
Meryl Streep.
The Meryl Streep. They're going to be good every year.
Yeah.
So you have to be extremely good, or it has to be a weak field for him to win. But he always just puts up good numbers. He also played 157 games this year, which sometimes he isn't able to make it through.
And he does every year.
But he had 38 homers, 108 RBIs, hit 315. His only mark against him is he's not the fielder that he used to be, and that he doesn't steal.
Yep.
He's not one over.
And I think there's actually some voter weariness of him too, which again, voters are human.
That's right.
So when people year in, year out are good, they're going to look for other people to honor.
So there I put him 10th. I wanted certainly to have him get a point for the year he puts up year after year after year, and he's always the heart and soul of that team.
Yep. And so agreed on that one. Right? So my number 9 pick is someone you might not thought of at first, and if you look at his year, it was terrific. I picked Kyle Sager from the Mariners. He had a phenomenal year when you look at his numbers. He did it as a shortstop, and that offense was essentially him and Cano and nobody. And the Mariners just got eliminated last night. They hung until the last day of the season when no one really thought they would. And that offense was a two-man wrecking crew. That's all. So and to do it as a shortstop is pretty remarkable. So I picked Kyle Sager as my 9.
I didn't think of him.
Yeah.
I put Dustin Pedroia 9.
Yeah,
primarily on the second half that he had. He picked up that team, and he was having a usual Pedroia year, but he ended up having probably, I think, his best year ever. And he's a phenomenal fielder. He gets better every year.
He does.
Some of the stuff, you take for granted how good he is out there. He's a great team leader. and his stats that he put up, he ended up with over 200 hits for only the second time.
Yeah.
He's second in the league in batting now at 320.
He went on a tear.
Terrific year. And of course, the reason a lot of people will vote for him is because he only had 15 home runs.
Yeah.
But he was just such a spark plug, and he fits in so well as a veteran player that the young guys can look up to, but he still doesn't act like a veteran. He plays every game like it's his first game out there. I love this guy.
It's such a contrast between he and Poppy, because Poppy's waving and shooting the breeze with everyone, and Pedroia is this. He is focused every second of the game.
He's never been involved in any kind of scandal of any sort, whatever. I just think he's certainly worthy to be mentioned at MVP.
And you can make the argument, maybe the Hanley Ramirez homer against the Yankees, but his homer against the Angels might have been the biggest hit of the year.
Right.
2 outs in the ninth, he hit a 3-run homer, and they were out on the West Coast, and they were playing horribly, and that game really got them going in the second half. So, great pick. So we're pretty much in agreement so far, actually. So again, we're ranking them. These are all great players. It's where do you put them?
That's right.
My number 8, and this ties into the whole thing about where do you rank a great player who's on a horrible team? My number 8 was Mike Trout, who by any metric you choose is the best player in the league. And it's not even close. In terms of hitting, stealing, fielding, the guy does it all. The problem is the Angels were horrible. Pujols had an off year hitting behind him, so he walked a ton. That's why his on-base percentage is always so high. I mean, Pujols only hit about 260, hit a lot of homers, but he did it without a lot of protection in that lineup. And it's the whole thing of how strongly do you feel that the MVP should come from a winning team? Because there are writers out there who are going to put him first.
Right.
Because they say it's not his fault that the team stinks around him. You still have to reward that player for a great year. But the way I interpret it is most valuable player. And yes, he does have value to the Angels, but how much value do you add to a fourth-place team that was out of it in June?
I think that's the critical difference between best and valuable.
Yes.
Best and valuable. And that to me is what it's all about. This valuable player is someone who's rewarded for bringing his team to the top.
Right, I agree.
My number 8 pick, Trout.
How funny is that? Wow.
For exactly the same reason. Number 7?
Yeah, okay, repeat. My number 7 pick is a great all-around player, and you've seen him play against the Red Sox a ton, Manny Machado from the Orioles. He's their third baseman. He's a great combination of power and terrific in the field. He's a strong base runner. He's just one of those he's not a big power guy. He does hit homers, but he's not like Trumbo or Davis or these big thumpers that are in the Oriole lineup. He's sort of more of a doubles kind of hitter. He's a scrappy guy, and he's the guy I actually fear most in that lineup. And he had a terrific year, just a great, sort of like Pedroia, just sort of fills every category, and at the end of the year you say, wow, this guy's good at everything. And so he was my number 7 pick.
Okay. My number 7 was Donaldson of the Rays, of the
Blue Jays. Yeah.
He had an off year because last year he was MVP, but his off years are still great.
Yeah.
And he's another guy that plays. I ranked him as low as I did because I think his last month or two was a downtime. When he played against the Sox, he seemed to strike out more. He just didn't seem to be the dynamite player that he'd been as much as he was last year. He's a terrific fielder, though. He also doesn't steal much, but he's still a tough-nosed guy.
Yeah, he's like Pedroia, very focused all the time.
I'm sure a lot of people have him higher, but he won last year, and I don't think they'll rate him much higher than that.
I think the voters are kind of wary about going to the same well 2 years in a row. I think he has that against him.
His numbers were down.
They were.
They were down. And he hit, 37 homers, 99 RBIs, but on that team you should have more RBIs than that.
Yeah. So, all right. So moving on, my number 6 pick, again, surprisingly comes from the Seattle Mariners. My number 6 pick is Robinson Cano. Didn't quite put up the offense that Brian Dozier did at second base, but better in the field. And again, it was a 2-man wrecking crew. That whole lineup was just the 2 of them. And he he had a kind of a reputation with the Yankees as sort of being a nasty guy, and that's sort of gone away with the Mariners. He's turned into a real leader on that team. I think that big contract, he sort of assumed a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, he was not running out base, ground balls a lot, kind of hot dogging a lot.
And he's really changed that since the Mariners signed him the big contract, and also a great comeback. He had kind of an off year the last year, and he really came back and put up some terrific numbers. And again, that ties into the whole intangibles thing. I think is that Seattle team should not have been in contention till the last day of the season, and they were. And he was a big reason.
He had 39 homers in a park that is not.
He and Sager putting up those power numbers in that park are ridiculous.
My only gripe against him is he had 0 steals.
He did
0, and he's not a big, slow-footed guy. Yeah. My number 6 is a player I love, and I wish we never lost, was Adrian Beltre for Texas. He is such a hard-nosed, good guy player, just plays tough all the way through. He's had seasons where he's been hurt. This year he played 152 games, hit 32 homers, 104 RBIs, plays a great third base. And he is the ultimate veteran team leader.
Yep, he's a dirt dog. Ultimate dirt dog. Yep.
I don't know how high he'll be rated in the MVP playing, but Texas has had the most wins in the league. And I dread playing, if we end up playing the Rangers, I dread playing against him because he goes down to one knee and hits the ball of the Green Monster.
That's right. And what's that? He had perfect power for Fenway, too. So, well, moving on, my number 5 pick is Adrian Beltre. So just to expand on just how good he is, because I think he's snuck up on a lot of people because he hasn't been in a lot of big market teams. But he's going to be the next player to 3,000 hits. He's next season probably, he'll unless he gets hurt, he'll pass 3,000 hits. I think he's for sure a Hall of Famer. Absolutely. For sure Hall of Famer. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think he's closing in on 400 homers. I think it's 380 something he's at right now. And just a phenomenal career, great leader, and again, does everything right. His
one problem is he's never had a definitive moment.
Right.
A lot of guys get attention just because of one great series or one great at bat or something that they do that they can look at. Remember the time he did this. Jeter flipped the ball in foul territory over and over. Fisk hit the ball that hit the home. But you say Belcher, well, what did he do? What can you call that he did? That still can come. But at this point, I can't think of any particular moment that he did something that was something that pops to mind is remarkable.
And tying in, except for the 1 year he was with the Red Sox, he has not been with a big market team that's had a big playoff run or anything like that. So it's sort of, that is a knock against him for whatever reason. It's not really his fault, but.
Well, okay, it's number 5 we're on?
Yes.
I'm going to disappoint most of the local viewers. I'm picking David Ortiz for number 5 this year. For this reason, he's a designated hitter. And I hate to say it, but he never played it all in the field, and he can't play against the National League teams, therefore. So 10 critical games he can't play. Now, the sentiment behind him around here is enormous. They're giving him a send-off they didn't give John Kennedy. But his stats have been great for him, but you figure, he had 1 year where he had 52 homers and knocked in 150 RBIs and was not the MVP. So he's had better years than this, was not named the MVP at that time. So I know it's a very emotional thing to deal with him, but you've got to remove that. And I think there's a lot of writers around the country that don't feel that way about him. They're kind of glad to see him go. They think the hoopla around him has been overblown around here because we tend to treat our athletes like gods. Tom Brady comes to mind.
Yeah, right.
And so I'm ranking him 5th, but I'm sure he'll probably end up better. But that's my call.
Well, pretty funny. I had him ranked 4th. So again, trading the spots. Yep, here he is right here. This is what we want to happen this year, him raising the trophy again. But again, you're right about, and I hate to be biased against the position because I don't think that's right within the rules. But he is a designated hitter, and a lot of voters feel that way too. A lot of voters think that a DH doesn't play the field, so inherently that's not as valuable as being on the field every inning. He's had probably the best final year of any player ever. I mean, it's absurd the stats that he puts up. And it's because of his intelligence. We were just talking about the homer he hit against Toronto the other night where he was waiting for a pitch And he was so smart, he knew he was going to get an inside fastball at some point, and wait, and he put his foot right out towards right field and hit it out of the park. His intelligence is incredible.
But the real bottom line is, in the World Series Game 7, we're playing in National League Park, he can't play.
He's not going to play. Yep, he is. Yep.
Can't play. They're certainly not going to put him in first base in a situation
No,
like
they can't do that.
So the best he can DH, and so that unfortunately, from my perspective, just knocks him down a few players.
Yeah. Well, actually, Game 7 would be at the American League, but it would be
This
three.
year.
It'd be 3, 4, 5 in the World Series this year. But yeah, he cannot play against the National League, and that's a huge knock.
Did not this year either. Sometimes he has. This year he played, I think, one game.
Yeah, he did once. Yeah.
So where are we at?
Number 4.
4 for me.
Hmm?
I put Robinson Cano.
Oh, great.
Against my better judgment, I don't like the guy.
Yeah.
Partly because he was a Yankee. I don't, and partly because he's slow.
Yeah.
But I was just astounded by the numbers that he put up this year. First of all, he didn't miss a game. He played the entire schedule, which is terrific. And he had 39 homers, knocked in 103. I don't know, maybe that's high. But in looking through all the rankings, he outdid himself. He's always been a good player, but this was a marked season for him. And I think I suppose he had Cruz behind him, but without him, there was no way Seattle would have hung into the last day of the season.
And again, putting those numbers up in that park is astounding. It really is. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move along.
All right.
Running past some time here.
Number 3 is someone that you had in the past, but I put a little higher. I put Donaldson third. I felt I had to put a Blue Jay in there somewhere because the Blue Jays are most likely going to be a wild card team. And I think even though Encarnacion had a good year, Batista had a really down year. He only hit about 230, I think. And so Donaldson, even though he didn't put up the numbers he put up last year, he still carried a lot of that offense. And you said in the field, he's terrific. Terrific third baseman. And he's just sort of the spark plug of that Blue Jays team, too. You know, he's the Pedroia of that team. He's always diving in the dirt and yelling at other guys to get going. And so I put him third, but there's no problem putting him a little bit lower, too. Again, where do you rank these? I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Well, I put Machado third. So
we
flipped 3
flipped,
and 7.
right? That's right.
As I said at the top of the show,
Yeah.
this is just, if we had 6 other people here, they would just be pretty much the same people and just put them in a slightly different order.
Sure.
But it does make a difference in the overall voting because 3 versus 7, 7 versus 3, and so forth. And I can see by your schedule, we've got the same top 2 guys. So
Oh, really?
why don't we talk about them together?
Okay. I'll say them at the same time. I went with, my number 2 was Jose Altuve, who had a phenomenal year. He's going to be the batting champion. He's about this big, which gives hope for short people. He plays a phenomenal second base. He's in the top of the league in steals. I think he's in the top 3, I think. I don't think he's leading. And just a great, again, like a Pedroia guy, total spark plug for that Astros team, who, again, they were in contention till the last 3-4 days of the season. Had another great year. And it's just one of those guys is just overall is just a team guy, just a total spark plug for a team.
Okay, now I had Mookie Betts number 2. He's a little guy, only this big. He's a spark plug. He's a great defensive player. He had 26 steals. And these 2 guys are carbon copies.
They're interchangeable.
Yeah.
I had Betts as one. He had Altuve as one.
And it was just, they don't allow you to split your vote in this. You can't give half. I would have done that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I put Altuve first just because I can't believe what he can accomplish at his size in every respect, and he doesn't seem. You can't get this guy out.
No,
and he never has a bad streak.
No,
and
he's so consistent.
He plays with the Pedroia-like intensity, but he also has a lot of power. He got 24 homers, and he's 5'6".
Yeah,
that's hard to do.
He and Betts. Maybe you could give the edge to Altuve because he's second base and Betts is right field. Is second base more valuable in the field? That's totally subjective too. I gave it to Betts just. Again, you can't go wrong with either one of these.
Right.
I gave it to Betts only because, and again, this comes from watching him every day, and this links into the whole most valuable player. He absolutely destroyed Baltimore this year.
Right.
And Baltimore has been an absolute thorn in the side of the Red Sox for years. And he carried that team a couple games against their direct competition. That's why I gave him a slight edge over Altuve. But either argument is
interestingly,
valid.
he is a player that is respected around the league because of his joy for playing.
Yes.
He has this big grin on his face all the time, and he's a smart guy. He's always learning, and he's a great bowler.
Yeah, right.
How many baseball players are great bowlers?
I think John Burkett was the only other one that was a good bowler back in the day.
But he's just a joy to watch.
He is.
And I think he was leading the outfield in assists as well.
Yes, he is.
Some great plays out there. That play where he fell into the bullpen and saved the home run last year was just, ridiculous. And they're both young players. To me, the fact that we have so many young players on
Yes.
this list is a great sign for baseball.
It is.
There's not a lot of old aging veterans in here. There are a couple,
Yep.
but the younger guys are being able to produce and bring another generation of baseball fans along. I think they're concerned about appealing to younger demographics out there all the time.
Yep.
These are the people you're going to identify
Yep.
most with. You see someone like Mookie Betts out there.
Right.
He'll be around for
Yep.
a long time.
Mhm.
And the thing I like most about all these picks is all of them played at least 150 games.
Yeah, they're all everyday guys.
All of them played 150 games.
And tying into the whole marketing to youth, I think we'd probably be remiss if we didn't mention that they lost Jose Fernandez a week ago.
That's right.
And he was 24 years old, phenomenal pitcher. Baseball, he was one of the guys that baseball was looking to get that younger demographic in. The All-Star game was going to be in Miami next year, and they were really going to hype him as a future of baseball. So it's really sad loss, but again, there are so many young players here that I think baseball will absorb the loss,
Right.
as difficult as it is for that. But so many guys 26 and under on this list
right.
that it's such a bright future for baseball. It's so cool.
So again, we take this last day of the season, and the announcements for the winners of all these won't be announced until after the World Series is over, usually the first couple weeks of November.
Yeah.
So you can hear this show, see our picks through, and when they finally announce, see how close we came in. Why don't you make yourselves a list and pick
Sure.
out the top 10,
That'd be
see how
great.
you can do,
Yeah.
taking our amazing expert
Yeah,
suggestions here.
experts that we are, right?
Take this all the time. And as we speak, the Red Sox are about to head into the playoffs,
Yeah.
apparently against Cleveland, if the weather ever clears up. So here's hoping 2013 repeats and we can send Poppy out with a 4th ring.
Yes.
In any case, this is episode 6 of season 2, and we'll see you on. Thanks, Dick.
See you at the park.
Ballpark.
Yes.
Thank you for watching another outstanding program provided to you by Lunenburg Public Access. We're here to serve the community. Lunenburg Public Access is always looking for volunteers to help record town events, high school sports, and town meetings. Please consider helping us out today. To contact us, you can call 617-763-3018 or email us at lunenburgaccess@gmail.com. Thank you.